Was this the right decision? Did I actually miss anything? And I'm here to give you the honest answer. Most people who chose an apprenticeship over going to uni would tell you that they had to fight for it. They had their parents worried, maybe the family didn't get it, and they had that general feedback from people that maybe they were mad. Why would you choose an apprenticeship over going to university? My situation was basically the opposite. My parents were the ones pushing for me doing an apprenticeship. Same for my brother. They had done their research. They understood the problem that youngsters had with debt and going to university. They understood the job market, and they would look at the numbers and say, why would anyone in their right mind pay 30,000, 40,000 pounds in debt and then learn something that they could have been paid to learn, essentially? And now it's not that this is for every single career out there or every single field that someone wants to go into. Of course, university has benefits and it is needed, especially for certain fields. But the opportunities nowadays in terms of apprenticeships and how much you can learn on the job whilst also earning, it's crazy. So looking back when I was 18 years old, I'm currently 23, about to turn 24, and almost finishing my apprenticeship, a level 6 degree apprenticeship. So looking back at 18 years old, there is that doubt. There is that feeling where, do I really want to do an apprenticeship? Everyone I know mostly are going into university, friends, family, wherever. And that seems like the most obvious route. That also seems like the route that it's traditional. Everyone wants to go down that route, and that's what's been pushed to us since the beginning. All throughout school, you'll have teachers, you'll have career counselors. General career guidance would tell you that you go from high school to college to university, and then you get a job. And that was the way that they presented it. But now we've got this opportunity of apprenticeships, and now if you ask anyone, they would say by far this is the route to go down. And unless your field, your niche, your aim is so specific that you can't get an apprenticeship in that, it would be unwise to not pursue apprenticeships. What are the benefits? I mean, 5 years later, I am almost finishing my civil engineering degree, which I haven't paid a penny towards. In fact, not only am I not in debt for getting a degree, I have got a degree for free. At the same time, I've been paid to get work experience and essentially have a full-time job. Through that, I have been able to, live my own life. I have been able to use that money for wherever else. I've bought my own house. So there are a whole load of other benefits. 5 years down the line, I am, earning around 30k, and there will be people straight out of uni who would maybe start a bit less than that, but they've done 3 to 5 years of uni, whereas I've done, and they've earned nothing in that time, or maybe they've had a side job where they've earned a little bit, whereas I've been earning a decent amount. Okay, it's not that much now. I'm getting to that grad level income, but I've not had any expenses like that throughout my 5 years. So the question is, looking 5 years back, were my parents right? Was this the right decision? Did I actually miss anything? And I'm here to give you the honest answer. So let me take you back to college. I was 17, 18 years old, and we have this pressure on us that you're almost about to finish college. What are your next steps? What have you considered? And to be honest, in college, they only push university. Back when I was there anyways, we have our form tutor, who basically like a career counselor or career guidance counselor, and they sort of help you for that final push towards leaving college. And I've got to say, I had basically zero help from her in terms of an apprenticeship. Now, my parents had told me from before that, look, an apprenticeship seems like the solid route for what I want to go into. And at the time, that was aerospace engineering. And there were plenty of opportunities, similar fields, and apprenticeships were a viable option. And there was good pay, and they had the degree and everything with it. So my parents basically convinced me at the beginning that, look, there is this option. I looked into it, and I was more than convinced that if I had to choose between the university route and an apprenticeship route, then why wouldn't I go for the apprenticeship route? But my problem was, the first is with friends. Yeah, and like most people, there is a lot of peer pressure. How can you follow a route where everyone is going one way? All your friends, everyone is taking that university route, and you are basically going a whole different path. You end up, hardly seeing them. You won't basically spend time with them. This is where your paths basically diverge, and that's a very tough decision, especially at 17, 18 years old, when throughout the last 15 years, 17 years, you've been making those friends along the way. You've had those experiences, and you've been through a lot together. So that was a big jump. The second was there's that question from, let's say, the career guidance counselor themselves or other people around you, friends, family. What the question? Why would you do an apprenticeship? Everyone's going to uni, and uni seems like the best option. They'll say that, oh, they went to uni. They know this person that went to uni. They'll ask you for your future career, and they'll say, okay, yeah, go to university because I know this person that did this and this, and they've got an amazing job now. So that was the sort of second pressure that was there. And the third was that little voice inside telling you or giving you that doubt. And it's always there with every decision that you make. Do I really want to do an apprenticeship? There'll be so much work to do. I'll be juggling 9 to 5 full time, and at the same time, I'll be doing a degree. And most people finish a degree in 3 years. I'm gonna take 5 years. There were all these little doubts that were coming along, and yeah, you have to keep that in mind. But it does affect you. It does play in the back of your mind that what if these doubts are, what if I should actually keep them in mind? What if I should actually take them into account? What if everything that everyone is saying to me, and what if that little voice inside is telling me that what I'm doing is wrong or the choice I'm going to make is wrong? So these were the sort of the main pressures I had. Luckily, I had huge support from my parents, and this is essentially all of them. If I didn't have their support and their push, then I wouldn't have made it to where I am today. At the end of my apprenticeship, having achieved what I have achieved in in sort of longer time, but a lot more than what most other people could have achieved in this time. This is not to boast or brag or anything. This is just to show that this can be done. But I am, let's say, almost 24. I have almost completed my degree. Within a year, I should have also got my chartership. I would have 6 years work experience after my apprenticeship finishes, being paid for all 6 years with my salary increasing, and I can make a separate video on my salary progression. At the same time, I've had enough money to buy a house away from the mortgage route, which saved me a lot. Got married, finished my Islamic studies during my apprenticeship, and basically started further studies in Islamic jurisprudence, and will also be almost finishing that this year, inshallah. So at one go, I was doing so much, I was juggling so much, and I couldn't have done it if I didn't have the support of my parents. And they're the ones who pushed me. They're the ones who told me, yes, you can do this. You can do this. If you manage your time properly, if you have your focus correct, then you can do all of this. And yes, it will be difficult. And they told me, and I understood that as well, that there is difficulty in all of this. But with the right support, with the right intentions, all of this can be done for anyone. I literally am no one special. Yeah, I have had the same education growing up as anyone else. It's not like I'm super clever or anything. It's just that once you have that focus, once you have that goal in mind, and when you have that right support, and yes, having parents on your side, it can be difficult. Mine was, alhamdulillah, it was very easy because they're the ones who pushed me to do this. But you might be someone who your parents are pushing for you to go to university, and you want to convince them for an apprenticeship, and there's a lot of difficulty in that. So everyone's situation, everyone's case is different. I'm just showing you mine and how my story ended up. A little bit of motivation as well, that you can do this if you put effort into it and make your own circumstances, essentially. And obviously, at the end of the day, it's all in the hands of Allah, and you make dua. Essentials. So now I've given a bit of background to my story. Let me quickly explain what an apprenticeship is, because I don't know, you might not really know what it is. You've probably heard of it, but you don't know what it exactly entails. So just quickly, this is where you work full time for a company. They will. So in my case, it was a civil engineering degree with a geotechnical engineering focus or discipline. They will pay you a real salary. Now it might be starting off pretty low, but it can get high. So this is not a training wage or an intern wage or anything like that. There is a proper salary to this. This is not an hourly thing. And at the same time, you will be studying towards a qualification. Now, if you're doing level 3, then this could be like an A-level equivalent. If you're doing level 6, this would be a degree equivalent or a degree in itself. And level 7 would be masters. And at the end of it, you essentially come out with no student debt. You will have an additional qualification. So in my case, there was a degree, or there will be a degree, and you will have an X amount of years towards real experience, which most other people don't get. So essentially, you could be, or your friends could be finishing uni with 30, 40,000 pounds worth of debt, and you will be finishing your apprenticeship with 3 to 5 years experience, a salary for those 5 years, and a free qualification essentially. where you don't pay for anything. Now, I'm not going to say that this is easy. You are working full time, you are studying on top of that, and a lot is expected from you. A lot of effort is required, and you need to make those sacrifices. I'm not going to pretend that it was easy at all. It wasn't. And a lot of the time, you're exhausted. Now that I'm coming towards the end of my apprenticeship, it sort of clicked in that there was no doubt that this was the best route. And over the years, I've had multiple people tell me, after I explain what my role as an apprentice is, how my apprenticeship works, I've had multiple people, including people at work whose own kids have gone to university, and they've told me that by far you've made the best decision in choosing an apprenticeship over going to university. This is when it fully settled in that there was no doubt I've made the right decision, and alhamdulillah, it's all gone perfectly as best as I could have wanted it to go. I don't look over the last 5 years and think, what a waste of time. It's not like I found it so difficult where I was depressed and I couldn't do anything. I had no life. It wasn't like that. It was well balanced. Yeah, of course there's extra work, but I've come through almost all the way, I'm almost there. I can see the finish line, and I can appreciate that where I've got to now has required a lot of effort, but it's been worth it. Now, depending on the field that you work in, the work itself can be quite fulfilling if you've chosen a route which you had that interest in already, not just an apprenticeship just for the sake of an apprenticeship. Now, I'm not saying that's bad, because I would still choose an apprenticeship over university from my experience so far. It's just that I chose, let's say I'm in civil engineering now. Well, geotechnical engineering, but more vaguely civil engineering. And some of the projects I've worked on, some of the things that I've done, some of the software that I've learned, and the experiences that I've had overall, it's been amazing. And you don't get that when you're in university. Yeah, you might do a year in the industry, but again, that's just 1 year. You have to you go in, you do your stuff, and you get out, and it's an experience, and it's definitely worth it. So if you're in uni, then I would highly advise that you go for that. But to have 5 continuous years working on multiple projects long term, I've been on a project for like 3 years now, on and off, working on different parts, and it's been amazing, the amount of experience I've got, the amount that I've learned. So all that builds it all together, and it gives you that background, and it shows you, and you can see the results that happen. You can see the things that you have worked on, and the change that it brings. In civil engineering, I'm working with infrastructure all around the UK, internationally. Just recently I worked on a hotel in Gibraltar, and how many people can say that? So my work has a range of things, and it can honestly be very very fulfilling. So that's just one way that you can see the effect of apprenticeships compared to university. Now, I can keep going on and on about how good apprenticeships are and the benefits, but sometimes you just want to hear what you're actually missing out on. And this is where people have the doubt. Do I really want to do an apprenticeship? Do I not? Do I want to go to university instead with my friends? And I want to be honest. This is not just to appease you into choosing an apprenticeship. And of course, I want you to do an apprenticeship because that's the way that I know that worked for me, and I know it's amazing. And the reason that I'm putting this out there for you is so that you can benefit from this. There's no need for me to, I'm not competing with you, so I don't care. I want this to benefit you. So I'm going to give you the honest thing here. There are things that you miss out on. Firstly, there is this thing about social experiences, and yes, of course, university is there's a lot more of it. You go out with friends a lot more. You see them a lot more. You can go to different places. You have more freedom in your time to do things like that. Whereas when you're limited to an apprenticeship where you got your 9 to 5, then you got studying, weekends look busy, you have different responsibilities, you have got coursework and exams and all that coming up, as well as work deadlines. You get a lot on your plate, and you sort of miss out on all your free time that you could have done other stuff as well. So that is something that you have to think about. Are you someone who can, not necessarily easily, but are you someone who can push past the difficulty and pursue an apprenticeship even with its difficulties with time management and having free time in general? The second is, again, is around university and how university lifestyle differs for an apprentice. Now, you'll have full-time students who are there, they're experiencing the full university life, and you're not going to experience that. You might be there 1 day a week like I am, or you might be there on a block release, so 1 week in every 4 to 6 weeks or something. That's a whole different experience. You barely have time to get to know people in that time, honestly. So that's something else to take into account. Are you someone who can do that? Then there's holidays and breaks, and with university you have plenty of holidays. You're barely in uni for about 7 months of the year, and then you're just off the rest of the time. So can you, for example, with myself, I am a part-time degree apprentice, meaning I will still be at uni, still alongside full-time students, but only 1 day a week. Meaning, a full-time student who will do a degree will take 3 years, and I'm doing the same course but over 5 years. I will see students come and go. I will, meet different people. I will work alongside different people. But when they're on their holidays, my uni time essentially goes towards work. So I don't get holidays like that. I do have uni holidays, in a sense, where I don't have university for 2-3 months, but I'm still working. But here's what I've realized about those things. Most of them are about belonging and actually experiencing things. It's not actually about the university side. I found that, that belonging and gaining that experience can be done in another way, in many other ways, in fact, without you having to miss out on anything. The way I've done it is I've started traveling a lot more because I actually have the money to do that now. I've started doing things on the side. So I've started building this channel. I'm teaching Islamic studies. I'm doing multiple things on the side in a way to experience different things, in a way to make the most of my time. So this is just for you to understand the different things that come into consideration when choosing an apprenticeship over university. And this is basically what I've learned throughout my time. Just to finish off, past 5 years in now, this is what I've gained from an apprenticeship. Almost 30k salary, which started off at 20k, progressed to about 30k. University paid off, no debt, building things on the side like this YouTube channel, have money to travel, Islamic studies completed. I've got multiple things going on, probably because having an apprenticeship actually gave me that balance and that time management. In fact, people don't actually see it this way, but if you have that routine, then you can actually stick to things. You can actually plan around things. Whereas people go to university and they have so much free time with breaks and study time on wherever that a lot of it ends up going to waste. Realistically, they waste a lot of time. Whereas when you've got so much going on, you actually end up being productive with your time because you have to, and you have to make time for things if you want it. I'm not here to tell you that 100% the apprenticeship route is better than university, because for some people, for some courses, it just isn't. Yeah, it depends on how you are as a person. But with the amount of opportunities there are now, I would say that please consider doing an apprenticeship because it's definitely worth it. It's definitely worth it. For your future, for your family, for just your general lifestyle. To choose an apprenticeship, if it's a viable option, would be 100% worth it, as I have found it. Now, it's different for people. I'm not denying that, but look into it is all I'm saying. What I will say is that what scared me the most was this being a different path from everyone else, and I had to make that jump. I had to go out of the way and be different from everyone, and it worked out. Here I am 5 years later, and that difference, that moving away, that diversion from the path that everyone else was going, is the reason why I have something to talk about now, something to share with you. And hopefully, this can give a very unique perspective compared to some other things that you may have seen or watched. And hopefully this helps. But just think about that. I have something worth talking about now. Do you think you'd have something worth talking about in 5 years' time? If you do want that, then make that choice. I'll see you next time.